Hello and welcome to Indus News. Live from Islamabad, I'm Naila Shuja and these are the headlines. The Taliban have refused to participate in any future peace talks unless all foreign troops leave Afghanistan. In a tweet, a Taliban spokesperson said the group will decide their stance on the guidance of Islam. It comes after the U.S. daily newspaper, The Washington Post, reported that Washington will withdraw troops by the 11th of September. France says it is coordinating response with the world powers after Iran said it would begin enriching uranium at 60%. In a statement, the French presidency said the Iranian move is serious development and needs coordination with the remaining parties to the 2015 nuclear deal and the U.S. U.S. President Joe Biden has sent an unofficial delegation to Taiwan in what the White House called a personal signal of his commitment. This comes despite Beijing's warning to Washington that any such step would be like playing with fire. China's Taiwan Affairs Office spokesperson urged the U.S. to abide by the One China principle. In Niger, at least 20 nursery school children have died in a fire at a school at a poor neighborhood of the West African national capital. Officials said the fire started around the school gate and trapped the children in straw hut classrooms. India has yet again reported the world's highest coronavirus infections with over 184,000 people tested positive in a day. Pakistan has registered 135 deaths overnight, the highest in the third wave. More than 4,600 people tested positive in the country since yesterday. Meanwhile, the U.S. has paused the use of the Johnson & Johnson's COVID-19 vaccine over reports of rare blood clots. The global number of coronavirus deaths is approaching 3 million, while the caseload has crossed 136 million. For more news in detail, stay tuned. We'll be right back after a short break. Welcome back. The Taliban have refused to participate in any future peace talks unless all foreign troops leave Afghanistan. It comes after the U.S. daily newspaper, The Washington Post, reported that Washington will withdraw troops by the 11th of September. In a tweet, a Taliban spokesperson said the group will decide their stand on the guidance of Islam. Meanwhile, White House press secretary said on Wednesday President Joe Biden will deliver his remarks on Afghanistan. In a news briefing, Jen Psaki said this will include the way forward and Biden's plans and the timeline for the withdrawing of U.S. troops. Washington will miss a May 1st deadline that the previous administration had established in a Doha deal last year with the Taliban. This comes as a planned 10-day summit over Afghanistan is due to start on the 24th of April in Istanbul and will include the UN and Qatar. France says it is coordinating a response with world powers after Iran said it would begin enriching uranium at 60%. Earlier, an Iranian nuclear agency spokesperson said preparations for enrichment will begin in Natanz on Wednesday. In a statement, the French presidency said the Iranian move is a serious development. It said Tehran's decision needed coordination with the remaining parties to a 2015 nuclear deal and Washington. Meanwhile, Tehran summoned Portugal's envoy to protest the EU's new curbs, as Portugal has the bloc's presidency these days. The development comes as the 2015 nuclear deal revival talks are set to resume in Vienna today. U.S. President Joe Biden has sent an unofficial delegation to Taiwan in what the White House called a signal of his commitment. This comes despite Beijing's warnings to Washington that any such step would be like playing with fire. The delegation comprises former Senator Chris Dodd and former Deputy Secretaries of State Richard Armitage and James Steinberg. The White House termed the move a long-standing bipartisan tradition of U.S. administrations. Meanwhile, China's Taiwan Affairs Office urged Washington to abide by the One China principle. It said Beijing's military combat drills in the Taiwan Strait are necessary to safeguard national security. The U.S. is set to proceed with $23 billion arms sales to the UAE. President Joe Biden's administration has paused the deals in January, finalized by the former President Donald Trump, to review them. The State Department spokesperson said Washington intends to move forward with the sales even as it continues reviewing the details. It said the review process also involved consultations with Emirati officials related to the use of weapons. The deals contain 50 F-35 aircraft, up to 18 UAV systems, and a package of air-to-air and air-to-ground munitions. In Niger, at least 20 nursery school children have died in a school fire at school in a neighborhood of the West African nation's capital. Officials said a fire started around the school gate and trapped the children in straw hut classrooms. They said the school, with around 800 students, didn't have an emergency exit. Officials said the trapped students were forced to scale the wall to escape. India has yet again reported the world's highest coronavirus infections as over 184,000 people tested positive in a day. The global number of coronavirus deaths is approaching 3 million, while the caseload has crossed 136 million. In a fresh setback to efforts to tackle the pandemic, Johnson & Johnson has delayed its vaccine rollout to Europe after the U.S. paused its use over reports of rare blood clots. U.S. government scientists are focusing on whether the specific technology behind the shots may be contributing to the risk. But President Joe Biden believes the development will negatively impact the vaccine drive.
I made sure we have 600 million doses of the mRNA, not of either Johnson & Johnson and or AstraZeneca. So there's enough vaccine that is basically 100% unquestionable for every single solitary American. Thank you.
Meanwhile, in Brazil, a new report says the surging outbreak in the country is increasingly affecting the younger population more. The Brazilian Association of Intensive Medicine says 52% of the ICU beds are filled by patients aged 40 or younger. Over in Europe, the coronavirus situation remains grim as the Dutch government extends most restrictions. The situation in Asia is also worsening by the day. India's third wave keeps bettering the country. As the richest state, Maharashtra imposed a 15-day lockdown to slow rising infections.
This disease is spreading at a very horrifying pace. I say horrifying because today's number of positive cases in the state is the highest so far. Nearly 60,212 COVID-19 positive cases have been reported in the state today. Hence, the situation is very grim.
Australia's cabinet will begin meeting twice a week, marking a return to war footing amid turmoil in its vaccination drive. However, in more promising news, Moderna's vaccine still showed strong protection against the illness 6 months after people received their second shot. Pakistan has registered 135 deaths from COVID-19 overnight, its highest in the third wave. The health ministry says the nationwide death toll has reached 15,754. It said nearly 4,700 people tested positive for the virus over the past 24 hours. The nationwide caseload has reached 734,000, while nearly 642,000 have recovered. The ministry said there are over 75,000 active cases and the positivity ratio stood at 9.73%. Meanwhile, Islamabad says China will be gifting another 500,000 doses of the Sinopharm vaccine to Pakistan this month. The government has also issued new SOPs for the month of Ramadan, including a broader lockdown. The Ravi prayers are to be organized in open spaces, while outdoor dining has been allowed from iftar till midnight. The authorities say they will review the SOPs on the 10th of Ramadan. In Myanmar, a bloody paint strike has marked the second day of the traditional New Year holiday. Protesters splashed the color red on roads to represent the blood of those killed in the demonstrations. In Mandalay, activists marched with signs calling for the release of the ousted leader Aung San Suu Kyi. Moreover, the pro-democracy activists canceled the usual festivities of the 5-day New Year holiday. Activists say security forces have killed more than 700 people since the military seized power on the 1st of February. Meanwhile, the army has suffered heavy losses in the recent fighting against ethnic armies in the north. The Kachin Independence Army claims it has captured soldiers and killed many others, including a commander. In the U.S. state of Minnesota, the Brooklyn Center police chief and the officer who fatally shot a black man have resigned amid civil unrest. This comes after the city council passed a resolution calling for their dismissal. Brooklyn Center Mayor Mike Elliott said he hopes that the move will bring calm to the community. Talking to reporters, Elliott said he is yet to accept the offers of the resignation, leaving the door open for firing her. Meanwhile, demonstrators filled in the streets of the suburban city for the third straight night. The victims' relatives and supporters assembled near the Minneapolis courthouse, where Derek Chauvin is standing trial in the George Floyd murder case. Defense for the former police officer began 11 days of testimonies by prosecution witnesses.
I felt that Derek Chauvin was justified and was acting with objective reasonableness, following Minneapolis Police Department policy and current standards of law enforcement in his interactions with Mr. Floyd.
A U.S. intelligence report says China's push for global power is the leading threat to U.S. national security. The annual threat assessment report also documented alleged Russian efforts to undermine U.S. influence and assert itself as a major actor. At the same time, it stated that Iran and North Korea will also test U.S. security. The report has been sent to Congress. It will be the subject of Senate and the House Intelligence Committee meetings on Wednesday and Thursday. Egypt has filed a compensation claim for $916 million against the Japanese owner of a ship that blocked the Suez Canal for almost a week. UK club The Protection and Indemnity is one of the insurers of the Ever Given ship. In a statement, it said that the Canal Authority has not provided a detailed justification for this extraordinarily large claim. It expressed disappointment that the Ever Given vessel and its crew are being held in the canal. Earlier, authorities chairman Osama Rabi said that Egypt has officially impounded the mega ship as it pursues the compensation claim. He said Ever Given won't be allowed to leave the canal until compensation is settled. President Patrice Talon has won the re-election in Benin after the polls were boycotted by some opposition parties. Election Commission data shows that Talon secured 86% of the votes in the first round of the ballot. The election was marked by violence sparked by objections to Talon's decision to run for a second 5-year mandate. His opponents accused Talon of undermining Benin's standing as one of Africa's stable democracies. The 62-year-old millionaire has touted Benin's strong economic growth under his leadership. It's now time for a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. In Mexico, residents of a small community have let their children receive military-style weapons training. The locals say they have little choice as they are surrounded by drug cartels. Corn farmers in a rugged region formed a self-defense community police to protect themselves 5 years ago. The move by the villagers to offer arms training to school-age children has shocked the nation and made global headlines. The Mexican government has been critical of arming children in the country's restive regions. However, residents remain deeply suspicious of regional authorities who they accuse of being informants for the cartels.
Los arman, los graban.
The locals in the community arm the children. They are filmed. I think it is a delicate issue, recognizing that there is a problem at the source, a number of deaths on one side and also on the other side. That is what we found when we checked various areas after the violent and cowardly murder of the musicians. I think there is a problem that has not been addressed.
China says it has paid all assessed contributions to the UN regular budget for the year 2021 in full. Chinese mission to the UN said Beijing timely fulfilled its financial obligations in accordance with the UN Charter. In a statement, the mission said China actively supported the UN and firmly safeguarded the international system. It noted Beijing always remained a builder of world peace and contributed to global development. The mission added China will continue to honor its responsibilities and firmly support multilateralism. China is the second largest contributor to the UN regular budget and peacekeeping assessments. Most Asian stock markets have risen after Wall Street hit a high overnight. Tech and consumer stocks gained on optimism. The vaccine rollout will allow business activity to return to normal. Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index is leading the gains, jumping over 1%. Mainland Chinese shares and the ASX 200 in Australia have also added over 0.5%. In South Korea, the Kospi has gained just over 0.5%. However, the Nikkei 225 in Japan has slipped nearly 0.5% under the flat line. For the latest news updates, you can follow us on our social media at Indus.News.